Notion, I love you, but you're bringing me down. I can't imagine doing my job without Notion at this point. It is such a useful piece of software. That does not mean it's perfect. In fact, far from it. As much as I love Notion, my pain in using it has continued to grow, and I wanted to take the time to talk to y'all, both Notion as well as Notion users, about what I think isn't working and the changes I really hope to see in the coming year so that Notion continues to be the beating heart of the things that I build. Before we talk about Notion, I want to push back on something I know is going to be all of the comments.
Why aren't you using Obsidian? Why aren't you using Apple Notes? There's so many better solutions.
Well, Notion is so much more powerful than a note-taking Markdown tool. And as much as I love using it for that, its uses outside of that are why it excels for me and my content team. If we take a quick look at my content planning board, you'll see what I'm talking about. I have all these different views of my data. Importantly, I have my calendar view, where I see what videos are being published when. This is so useful for my team for managing individual videos, all the things necessary for them, from thumbnails to descriptions to titles to who's editing it to when it was published to where the assets are. This is so powerful for the way that we're producing content. But again, it's far from perfect, and we'll start diving into that in a second. We have all of these additional powerful views, the ability to share certain pages publicly and deep link to specific stuff. It's so useful. One last thing before we go into the problems that I want to call out is how good Notion's public response to this has been. I announced publicly that I intended to make this video and was looking for people to share their pain points. And Notion replied. Not only did Notion reply, they've actually been helping a lot of users debug specific problems they've had in the replies, and even built this page where they're documenting all of the things that people are bringing up. That's awesome. They are actually out here trying to be better. I'm not making this video because I think the Notion team is terrible and that they should give up and someone else should go replace it. I'm making this because they're listening, and I know they're listening. And I'm genuinely hyped that they're down to receive this feedback and improve the product, because I need Notion to work great. There isn't something that does all the stuff it does for me. There's no solution that enables me the way Notion does. So let's talk about how it can improve. We're actually going to see one of my first problems now that I open that tab up, which is the vertical space. I happen to do most of my content in 720p, but even when I'm not, I'm just on my lap. The amount of vertical space we're losing here is nuts. If I also had my bar for macOS here too, we're losing a fourth of the screen to things that are at the top, which is obnoxious to lose that much screen real estate in something that's meant primarily for reading and writing. We end up with so little space, especially with the database view, where we have all of these fields before I even get to the content. And look at how little content I'm able to fit on the screen at once. It's rough. And when we also have the this page is live bit too, that is so much vertical space we have lost. It just makes using the app worse. I'm also biased because I've been using Arc a lot more, and Arc moves everything to the side, which has been surprisingly nice for my workflow and giving me back all of this vertical screen real estate. So I wish I had more space in Notion. I'm feeling more and more claustrophobic as the UI continues to change. And I know why this is happening. This is being built by people who are building it on a desktop computer with a really big monitor. Keep an eye on a small monitor, people. We're not getting enough love lately. So now that I have this open, I can actually look at all the points I had for the calendar. The first one, the mobile view for the calendar is insultingly bad. So here's the calendar view. I'll go in depth on the problems I have with it. It is usable. Here's what it looks like on mobile. Are you kidding? It's a bunch of dots. And it's not even multiple dots for days of multiple things. 21 has 2 things, and there's no indication that this is any different from this. This is useless. This view is meme tier bad. I have never been able to find what I was looking for in the calendar in the mobile version. This needs a lot of love. At the very least, a different view where I can kind of Fantastical look through vertically what days have things with the name of the thing in it. This is painful. And yeah, I know they bought Cron, and I'm expecting the purchase of Cron to enable more improvement on the calendar side, but I haven't seen that yet. And the mobile calendar in particular is actually useless. So I just can't use this view on my phone. Please fix the calendar view on mobile. Give me any more context, or at the least the ability to turn my calendar into a list on mobile. I don't want to make yet another tab because I already have 15 of these views and I have to add more already. And switching between them is obnoxious. So please don't make me make more of these views just to solve these problems. But I'm not saying that because the desktop view is perfect and the mobile view is bad, because the mobile view has its own wide set of problems. I'll show you the first one that bothers me almost every day. So here are my topics, the things I plan on talking about. When I go to the calendar, why am I 4 weeks ago? The reason I'm 4 weeks ago is it's today. But this today view, for whatever reason, goes to the top of the month, the first of the month specifically. So if the first of the month is a Friday or a Saturday, that's a whole additional row that's in the way. And I have to scroll way more before I get to actually today, the 22nd. The funniest part is when the month changes, if you don't click this today button once, you'll always open to the previous month whenever you go to the calendar. So whenever the month changes, you have to remember, hey, it's the 1st. I need to click the today button in order for Notion to bring me to the right month when I'm using it. What the hell? I should open the calendar and it should bring me to the week. How do you screw that up? Okay, so that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is the vertical space again. Holy hell. When I open this page up in my 720p, I'm getting a little bit of one row. A little bit of one row. That's insane. And I have to scroll a bunch before this gets useful. And even then, I still have this here and the tab bar taking up a ton of space. If I toggle my menu bar back on, look at how little vertical real estate we have in the calendar. This is painful. I don't want this to stop scrolling here. I want the rest to scroll out. I want to just look at this week and not have this stuff in my way. It's absurd. And now for both the most first world problem and I think the most solvable thing. If you notice something about the titles, they're truncated really aggressively. There is no way to word wrap the titles. You cannot have the full titles for your things visible in the calendar view. When I have videos that have even somewhat similar titles or even just clickbaity, like I think, like what's that going to be? I don't know until I hover over it. It makes it so hard to manage things. Or God forbid, you have some notes in the doc. Now it chops half of the space you have and a comment. We get 2 characters of the title. 2 characters. 2 characters. Are you kidding? Come on. One more. This one might be a little more specific to my workflow, but I think it's a common enough thing. There is no easy way for me to drag things into the calendar when they're not already in it. I have a bunch of videos in StreamSafe here that don't have publish dates on them yet. I want a view where I can easily drag these into places in the calendar. I want that really badly. I know there's somewhere in here with like no dates, but I can't drag things from this. Like I'm trying to drag this. I can't do anything with it. There should be some way for me to see things that don't have dates yet, so I can drag things in and out with that. The value of a calendar view like this, especially for a creator like myself, if I want to move this video to last week, I drag it and drop it. Obviously, I'd move it to next week, not last, but this ability to organize my content day by day as I plan and publish my videos is essential for my business. And not having an easy way to do that sucks. My current workflow is hilarious. I'll pick a day, usually one that's like pretty far out that doesn't have things on it. So I'd pick the 10th. I'd go into StreamSafe. I would go assign all of these videos to that day. And now that they're in the calendar, I can finally move them where they're supposed to be. What? Yeah, I hate that I've had to build these jank workflows just to use the calendar because it's still by far the best option that I have. I love the amount that this has enabled my team, but I wish that these workflow pain points would be more meaningfully addressed and that I'd be able to read the titles in this view. Also, one more small thing you might have noticed, there's a lot of jank with the scroll. Like a lot of it. You can see all the stuff bouncing up and down there. And when I scroll back down, you can see a little peak of like the content above. It's so jank. Oh, that flicker. Oh, I don't even want to know how this is coded. I just know it's jank. If I was the dev in charge, I would probably overhaul this whole view. It's rough right now to get the scrolling through and getting to where you want to be. So those are my core pain points with the calendar. I have one more feature request, and I said I would try to avoid feature requests. If I want to shift things back a day, there's no way to do that. So if like yesterday, I had to get this GTA hacker video out. Ideally, I would have shifted all my videos back a day as a result. Doing that looks like this. Drag, 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 drag. For hours. It sucks. The amount of time I've spent shifting the stuff around. I've even considered like writing an API integration to do it for me, but couldn't find an easy enough way. Pretty rough. And I also know I'm not the only creator that is using Notion for this type of stuff. So if you fix it, you'll have a lot of people like me really excitedly talking about Notion. So if you want a bunch of free marketing, fix the things that the creators with the market have, the problems that we have, we'll be more excited than ever to talk about Notion. So please fix these things and consider adding some additional features for these use cases because we will return this in spades. We want to shill your software. I know I want to shill Notion more, but it's hard to do it in good faith when we have all of these problems and the tools are focused more on adding AI features and not fixing the problems that we have. We need to talk about performance. I'm going to close Notion quick, and I am opening Notion again starting now. That wasn't too bad. So it wasn't an update, but it really wasn't too bad. I was expecting worse. I've had plenty of time where Notion took a while to open and search that tends to suck really badly, but it has gotten better. I'm surprised that opened as quickly as it did. I'll give them points for that. I'm also on an M2 Max, one of the highest spec Apple laptops. So not representative of the average experience, but at the very least, Notion's not the slowest thing for me. I also know that there have been a lot of focuses on performance recently. In fact, that their newest release has better search and web publishing, cool, but also performance improvements. And I've seen those. It's cool to see performance improvements as a focus for Notion again. I'm really excited about them. Performance is getting better. Thank you for that. Keep working on performance. We need it. The random signouts. This is hard to demonstrate, but I feel like half the time I open Notion, I'm not signed in. And it doesn't want me to sign in with email, even though that's how I created my account like years ago. I don't want to figure out how to or bother with transferring my account to be Google sign-in. I shouldn't have to click multiple buttons to get to the email sign-in, especially since there's no 1Password integration, so I have to go copy it from 1Password myself. It's obnoxious. It is actually really annoying getting into Notion half the time. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some craziness going on with your auth layer. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm saying it doesn't matter. Figure it out. I shouldn't have to sign in half the time I open Notion. Also, whenever that happens, I get toggled into light mode for some reason. I am a light mode defender. I actually quite enjoy light mode, but I also make content in screencast a lot of the time. And other people get really mad when I blast them with a bright white screen, especially if I'm opening up Notion expecting it to not do that. You should store my light mode, dark mode setting as some local configuration flag rather than a thing that is stored in, I don't even know where it's stored as being reset all the time. This should persist even between accounts. Like if I sign out of my account and into another one, if the machine was set to dark mode, Notion should still be set to dark mode. Fix this. It sucks. Oh, Kanban quirks. As I've mentioned a bunch, I love the Kanban view. I live in this view. This way of managing my content has made it so much more effective for us to regularly publish videos and keep track of the things we want to do. But sometimes it gets quirky. And the one that annoys me the most is if I have the same columns in different views, the sort order goes away. So I have my stream safe view, which originally I made so I only have the things I want to be showing on stream, also so I can make it wider. And I can have other things like my separate record section hidden, because I don't necessarily want people to see what I'm planning on recording off stream. I don't care that much at this point, so I'm just showing it. But it sucks that the order of these lists entirely changes because the only place the ordering is saved is inside of this specific view. This isn't just annoying between different Kanban views when you have two boards with similar content, or it's actually a problem in the calendar too, because there's no way for me to move this above that because both of these have the date set of the 21st. So I can't put this over. There's no way to control this order other than when these pages were initially created, which might seem like a small thing, but when you're trying to keep this board readable, it sucks. Ideally, when I place content before or after other content, that should be saved in a hidden value somewhere that is used whenever these two pieces of content are near each other so that they can be ordered the same way. I think that's reasonable, having like a hierarchy of order between different nodes so that that's known between views. I think this is pretty trivial and I would imagine a lot of users would benefit from it. Let me know if you disagree, but order shouldn't be inconsistent between views. Here's that one. The AI stuff. I'm not that strong on this, so like if you don't do it, whatever. But I feel like it's being shoved everywhere. Like I just highlight this text and now I'm being told to ask AI. If I make a new page, it's going to ask me to start it with AI. No, I don't want to use this. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not in Notion to write a bunch of words and have an AI write them slightly better for me. My Notion docs are mostly bullet point lists and plans for us to make content. The way the AI is being pushed is pushed in a way that expects a specific type of Notion user that I and many others are not. And I'm not saying drop the AI. I'm saying let me opt out of it if it's not benefiting me directly. I don't want it. Don't make that a thing that gets in my way a bunch. For what it's worth, we are in the process of migrating to a paid Notion team, and the AI stuff has done more to frustrate me out of that than it has to get me excited to convert. Like AI is not going to make me a paid user. It's going to make me a churned user. Let me have a happy onboarding to start paying you. The team management stuff is chaos. It is so hard to know who has access to what and what you're going to be billed. I had a really rough time setting up the team stuff, so much so that I gave up and put my channel manager on that instead. They're doing a great job, and I'm excited to have this all figured out eventually. But right now, things are a bit rough, and it's annoying to set up a team. Cool. That's the AI stuff. That's the team stuff. I got a couple more nitpicks and one meme tier thing. This one I've complained about before. What the hell? Notion supports Markdown as a format and an export. If I do traditional Markdown syntax, like 2 hashes for heading 2, it works. It even says heading 2 there. It's really nice. And like the actual typing experience for all that, pretty good overall. But if I go to export it, you end up with markup full of like hundreds of stars for an italics. I don't know why or how this happened, but this is a consistent thing I experience when I export things from Notion, is the markdown I get from it is chaos. And a lot of the time I'm exporting markdown isn't to render it in a markdown renderer. It's to throw it in something else like a teleprompter app. And my ability to get from my Notion doc to my teleprompter, which is a pretty basic plain text thing, is absolutely miserable. And somebody from my community actually ended up building a tool to convert from Notion Markdown to normal Markdown. I think I can find that in the quote tweets. Yeah, Notion to Markdown, where Samir made a tool just to take that weirdly formatted Markdown and get rid of a lot of the weirdness. This shouldn't be necessary. We shouldn't be building a tool to unscrew your Markdown. Support the standard. It's not that hard. And unless I'm missing something, there's no reason to have 80 stars on each side of an italic. What else did I have in the list? This one feels small, but it's a pretty consistent annoyance for us. When I move something from here to here, like when I move this Notion video from to stream to recorded, I want some automation capabilities when movement happens. Specifically, I want the ability to tell Notion and tell my board when something moves to recorded, auto-apply the recording date to today. It's a small thing, be really nice. Ideally, I could also set the owner to Phase because he's my lead editor and he should be the owner of something once it's done being recorded. I obviously would like to be able to go in here and change things after, but the move to recorded, ideally, I could programmatically trigger these other things when that happens. There's no way to do that right now, which sucks, but it'd be really nice. Be really nice. I have a lot of other feature requests I could make, but I'm trying to not make this a video where I'm requesting a bunch of features. I want to focus on the issues that people have. As such, I want to go to the pile of things people reported in my tweet. 418 of them to see what some of those biggest pain points were. Dominic reported the same issue I had where you have to re-authenticate and it defaults to light mode and it's way too hard to find the setting for it. Yep, absolutely agree. Obnoxious. A lot of people complaining about search. I don't use search too much in Notion. I've had a pretty good experience with it overall. I know they're working on that. So to me, search isn't that bad, but it came up enough times that clearly it's a problem for others. People saying that Notion's slow. Again, it's a lot less bad than it used to be. So I don't want to emphasize that too much. Custom fonts would be nice, but not a big deal. More super slow. UI has too much animation plus sidebars push content around instead of overlaying. Yep, absolutely agree. There's too much going on in the UI as a whole. Like the amount that like the sidebar takes up space and shifts thing around, it like looks cool and fancy, but it just gets in the way. Small thing. I would love to be able to hide my email. It's basically public info at this point. I would like for my editor to cover that up here if you can, but I don't want my email being shown constantly when I'm opening up Notion. Most apps that have creator anything in them have a stream mode or a live mode where it hides those things. I would really like one for Notion because every time I accidentally like move my mouse to the left too far, I'm doxing my email. More complaints about the speed. Pages can only be found by those who know exactly where they are. I haven't had that. Like I've had a pretty good experience finding things in Notion. Multiple windows on macOS, yes. This one's really painful for me. Again, with like the calendar view and the Kanban view, if I could drag from Kanban to calendar with two different windows open at once, that would be so good. But there are just not good multi-window workflows in Notion at the moment. Yeah, you can force it with the Command-Shift-N, but still not a great experience. There isn't much like overlapping like tooling between windows. Interesting. If you create a blank page and insert the table, that sounds like a bug. This is on our, they're being really good with their replies. I've been very pumped with how Notion has engaged with these things. Like, you're not stupid. This is on our list. We hate it too. That level of honesty, that's why I'm able to make this video confidently, because I know y'all will watch it and I know there will be responses. And huge shout out to whoever's running the socials here. You deserve a promotion. You're killing it. One of like the better company Twitters I've ever seen. I've hit a couple infinite loops too. I think I haven't had one for a bit, but I've definitely hit that a few times. Oh yeah. Anything with a slash triggers the command block, which is very annoying. As somebody who types a lot of stuff with slash, something else. Even though this is part of the word before, the slash still triggers that search thing. At the absolute least, when I'm typing something, there should have to be a space or a new line break before the slash before you trigger that. Because like I'm doing it here, I probably want to use a block. But I'm doing it somewhere else. Don't trigger this when I'm typing a word and it's a slice in between it. I guarantee you 0% of the time when somebody has a character in front that isn't a space, do they actually want to do a block? Oh yeah, tab history again, like reordering tabs in tab history sucks. If I want to move this tab there, I can't. You can't drag and move the tabs around. The tab experience overall is just not great. 146 people liking the slow startup times. Like, yeah, again, they're fixing it. My Notion opened really fast when I tested it there. This I hate too. Control A selecting everything sucks. I feel like a lot of the copy paste behaviors are too focused on how you copy things around Notion and not how you copy things out of Notion. It's pretty rough. I want to be able to copy things from Notion to other tools. It is not because I want to move from Notion. It's because I use other things like my teleprompter and the ability to export like a script from here. That's just a bunch of paragraphs. Maybe there's an italics here and there. And exporting that to something else that's a text-based format sucks because the markdown it ships is terrible. So yeah, the copy paste behaviors in general, not great. Shared in Notion iOS is tied to the last workspace used. I want to select it. Oof. I have a lot of problems like this as someone who has multiple workspaces. Shifting between them and managing things that are coming from different workspaces is obnoxious. And I'm at the point now where like I basically just use the company Notion on my other computer, and I try to keep this one just for my content Notion. It's annoying that I have to think about these things, but I do. Again, the session log out randomly, that's a recurring one. I'm happy it's not just me. Lack of offline. I am not as strong on this. I get it, but it's not the biggest deal for me. Interesting. Yeah, the comments UI in general is pretty rough. I don't care about Teams. I'm sorry. I don't know how much you need these tools to integrate with your chat apps, but if you really want it, cool. I'm just not convinced that having your Notion and your chat apps well integrated is that big of a deal. The Google Calendar issue, a lot of people talk about this. Apparently it was a plan and just never happened. My guess is that that's Cron's responsibility and there's too much going on at the moment, but yeah. There's still a lot more in this list, but I've covered all of the core ones, the ones that got a significant number of responses. I think I've done a pretty good job summarizing the issues I've had with Notion. It's a great piece of software. And as I've said many times, I don't have any plan to stop using it. And the other solutions in the industry, as cool as they are focused on specific things that I am not. I know the Notion team cares. That's why they're as involved as they are on social media. That's why they're responding and why I know that y'all are watching this now. I hope that you take the needs of creators and the needs of your dedicated users seriously and focus a bit more on the stability and usability of the product. I know almost nothing here is something you can make a big marketing push. Like you can't make a video about how you made the calendar view suck less, but I can. And if you want more external people like myself to be talking about Notion as positively as we want to, a lot of the stuff we talked about today will help with that. I know making these changes isn't going to result in all of the measurable wins that marketing and sales are going to want to see, but it will keep the sentiment that core users of your product have from falling. And right now it's falling fast. I want to love Notion, but right now I just use Notion. I need you guys to help me love it again. That's all I have to say. If you want to hear a bit more about how I use Notion to run my channel, I'll pin a video in the corner all about that. Until next time, see you guys later. Peace, nerds.